This is the Night Shift Podcast, powered by Black and Gold Banneret, your home for news and analysis from all UCF night sports. The Night Shift starts now. All right, welcome everybody to this special edition of Night Shift. Eric Lopez alongside Jake here, joining us as UCF victorious. And 57-3, the final score. We'll take your questions and comments throughout. And we'll certainly hear from Kyle Nash, and we'll hear from, hopefully, Bryson Turner from the stadium here. They're currently at the postgame show. We'll take your comments. We'll take your questions. My big question, everybody, tonight, does tonight's game change your expectations for this season at all that you had prior to this game? Those are some of the questions we'll discuss. We might have some season predictions here on the show as well. Jake, how you doing?
I'm doing right. First time really ever had to really pay attention to a UCF game. That's for sure, being a graduate of Oklahoma State, but now part of the Black and Gold Banneret. Well, Eric, it was a rusty first half, to say the least. It was a sluggish first half from KJ Jefferson. The main focus for me when I was watching tonight was I really wanted to see how KJ was going to play because of all the hype that he was going to have coming from Arkansas. The end of his Arkansas tenure ended rough, and he's probably going to be the main reason, other than RJ Harvey, to determine how good UCF can be this year. And when he was struggling in the first half, he had that bad fumble in the first quarter. Fans on social media were already saying, I've seen enough of him. But you know what? He picked it up. He actually did. He finished with 164 yards, finished with 50% passing, 2 touchdowns, and had a rushing touchdown. But the thing is, Eric, I don't put much stock into this game whatsoever because it's the first game of the year and everyone's going to get that first game nerves and first game nervousness. But UCF did exactly what they were supposed to do tonight. They got themselves a dominant home win, and they can build off of that for Sam Houston.
It's a scrimmage. That's what I always say about these games, Jake. But that being said, look, I wrote a column about KJ Jefferson making an impact, making this team a contender for the Big 12. He's got to be way better than he was
absolutely
tonight. That was awful. That was just no excuse for that. I mean, you can talk about jitters and everything. That was, and he had a tough year last year at Arkansas, and you wonder, did those bad habits that he developed last year, they had a pro set offense, Dan Enos was the offense coordinator, did that kind of rear its ugly head today? On the broadcast, they were saying, well, he's pressing a little bit. I don't know if it was pressing. I thought it was more mechanical. He was telegraphing his passes. It was kind of bizarre. Like I said, I'm disappointed there because it's not like and here's the thing. It wasn't going to matter tonight. It's not going to even matter next week. What it's going to matter is in 2 weeks. It's going to matter in 2 weeks, Jake, when you're there in Fort Worth.
Yes, I'm going to be there.
Because UCF is not going to have this massive an advantage of talent that they had tonight. That's why, I agree with you. I wouldn't read too much here tonight with as far as what they did on the ground and what they did defensively, because they played an inferior opponent. I think New Hampshire has. I mean, I don't even get me started on how much I hate these games getting played. I think it's a joke, but although I'm not going to say. I mean, your Oklahoma State team's actually playing a legitimate FCS team.
Oh yeah, a small point. Yeah, a lot of people are very, very worried about that game. Actually, they're only 10-point favored for,
and that's warranted. Yeah, and that's warranted. This is not. This was a joke. I mean, New Hampshire.
No, this was a joke. What was? Yeah. I didn't even see a spread. What did they put the spread at 48-50? I didn't even see a spread anywhere.
It dropped to 40. It was weird. It was 42.5, and it dropped to about 41.5, and then
really, wow,
it even dropped under 40, which made people wonder. It turns out it meant nothing, but
it literally meant nothing. I get your point, and I've had these fair talks too. It's like some of these schools that they beat up on. It's honestly kind of humiliating and embarrassing. They're going to go out there, and the university is going to get paid, and they're going to get, destroyed like New Hampshire did today. I don't even know how many people in America thought New Hampshire had a football team, but this is the game. This is exactly what you're supposed to do. You need to get it off to a good win, and you need to build on it, and they'll have it again next week. They play Sam Houston. Sam Houston was very mediocre last year. So you get 2 cupcake games to start the year, you know?
Was there anything tonight that you saw, Jake, that changes your expectation about this team going into this season either way at all, or is it still the same?
I feel like it's still the same, to be honest. I mean, KJ is obviously one of the main focuses. They need him to get better. Bottom line is, I'll still say it was the first game. The nervousness was there. There was a point in the broadcast, I think it was one of the incomplete passes. They're saying he's like forcing for accuracy instead of following with his mechanics. But this is a game that all of us predicted that they would win, even if they were to cover or not cover by 39, 40 points, whatever it is. If they get another win with Sam Houston, which they should, then we determine to see how good they can be. And if they go out and in 2 weeks and beat TCU in Fort Worth, then we can maybe start predicting how good they could be. Because what's the score of the Colorado game recently? Because they got that after the bye week, and Colorado is not looking good right now.
Well, they're up 11 with 6 minutes to go against North Dakota State. They've shut out North Dakota State in the second half, and you know this. North Dakota State's a legitimate, pretty decent team. Like that.
Yeah, there you are.
So I actually been impressed. I've had this game on a lot. Colorado's defense looks a little better. They're not getting pushed around as easy as they were a year ago. Granted, the opponent is what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Shedeur Sanders is the truth. Shedeur Sanders is really good, and it's really glaring to see KJ struggles when you look at Shedeur Sanders and how he can throw the football to Jimmy Horn, to Travis Hunter, to this other kid that they have there at wideout, Grayson McCall, who was a kid that obviously took a visit to UCF, has led NC State back tonight, has thrown over 300 yards. That's why I think some UCF fans are going to be, I don't know if discouraged, disappointed, or just kind of asking questions after this game from a passing game standpoint.
Kicking themselves, basically. I think there was another tweet that they were saying it with Plumlee, like, we didn't realize how good we had it with Plumlee, and now we get the first game with KJ.
Yeah, no, listen.
He's 50% passing.
Fair or not, one of the problems is, as you know, in sports, you always make that, there's always that one first impression. And this is the first impression, and I think there was definitely a percentage of the fan base that lost confidence in KJ Jefferson moving forward. No, regardless, whether that's fair or not, right, because it's just one game, and he hopefully gets better. But there's now going to be a percentage of the fan base that's going to be like, I don't know until maybe the TCU game is early. Right, I'm not sold until I see it. Exactly. And I think you could have erased that. If he would have just shown some nice, I'm not saying light the world on fire, but, some of the throws he made was just like, ooh, hey.
Exactly. If you took away some of those couple of throws to start the game, you would probably feel better about it. Like I said, you get the win next week, you're 2-0, and then if he balls out in Fort Worth, then maybe the opinions are going to change. But for right now, it's not looking good. But obviously, it's the first game of the year. It's still too early to tell if he's the guy or not. It's too early to tell. Bottom line.
Well, I think he's the guy, whether they like it or not. I mean, you saw Ja'Cory Brown. I wasn't that impressed with him either. Coming in relief.
No, neither was I. Neither was I. The fumble, which took him out. If he completed that pass, they probably would have been short there, but it could have been 4th and 2, 4th and 3, a manageable 4th down, and they had to kick a field goal.
Correct. I would agree with that. And look, like I said, did it matter today? No, it did not matter about today's game. But it is going to matter when you start playing legitimate FBS teams.
Absolutely.
Starting a couple of weeks with teams, because you're not going to be able to run over everybody in the Big 12. At some point, you're going to trail. You're going to have to make throws. And, the first half in particular, I thought the offensive line didn't do a great job pass protecting either.
No, they didn't.
Either. Why, okay, so you agree with me.
I wasn't too impressed with that. One thing I was impressed was, how about the special teams? They had good returns.
Yeah.
They got the block punt for the safety. The kicker made the special team scored 8 of the first 15 points of the game.
Yeah, that was a big positive. We haven't made big plays on special teams in a while. Getting the block punt was huge for the safety, and I thought Xavier Townsend returning punts was good. I think he's a playmaker there. I think that's a big positive. The only concern I have about that, Jake, he's going to be our number 2 receiver behind Kobe Hudson. You play Townsend at punt return, and I think he did the kick return, I remember. But if you do that, you run the risk of him getting banged up a little bit. I don't know if we're deep at the wide receiving position. Trent Whitmore's the number 3.
Not yet.
I don't know.
You can get away with it in non-conference games, but starting Big 12 play, you might have to find somebody else, or if he is going to return kicks, don't put him out there with the offense immediately. Let him get some rest and maybe come back in after like a couple of plays.
We will take your comments. We'll read your comments and questions here in a couple of minutes here. We're just getting warmed up here on Night Shift, our 5th season doing live UCF postgame shows. Jake was going to be a contributor. A correspondent is the official title. He's going to be at the UCF TCU football game in 2 weeks in person, so he'll actually pop in after the postgame from Fort Worth in a couple of weeks with that Big 12 opener. He'll also be popping in from time to time this season on our postgame shows for when he's available. He's a busy man. Let me ask you this: what was your prediction for this team? How they would do this year prior to this game? What was your preseason prediction? Like, for example, I have them at 8-4. Going into the season, I had them 8-4. What do you have?
I wrote the ceiling and floor. I think it was uploaded Tuesday or Monday. I don't remember.
Right. It's on the Black and Gold. Yep, it's on the Black and Gold Banner.com. It's called the cheap plug right now. That article is up right now.
Yep. I said the ceiling for them could be 10-2 based on who they're playing in the Big 12. And I point this out there: 5 of the 6 teams they lost to in the Big 12 last year are not on the schedule. The only one's West Virginia. The floor for them could be 4-8, 5-7. But realistically speaking, I'll agree with you, Eric. I could see them being 8-4 or 9-3. If all goes well, maybe they do get 10 wins. Maybe they can. I could see it happening based on who they're playing. If they get off to a good start and KJ slowly figures it out, and obviously they got the good running game already, so they're going to be a run-heavy team for now, and that could provide an opportunity for play action with KJ, but he has to work on the accuracy.
Well, and that's the goal. That's what they want to do. So you got them at 10 wins, best case scenario.
The ceiling floor, I had them 5-7. I'm pretty sure in that article. Realistically, I see them 8-4, 9-3.
Yeah, that's where I had them. I'll be honest with you. I had them at 9-3 prior to the John Walker injury that was announced by Gus Malzahn. He's going to be out. They didn't give any timeline. They hope to have him back at some point this season. But John Walker, to me, was a talented defensive tackle there with probably the most upside of the group there. Yeah, and I said this on many of the shows I'm on around the kingdom with my friend Trace Trucco. I'm on, obviously, the Black and Gold Banner podcast. I just don't believe, Jake, and you know the Big 12 as well as anybody. That's why it's cool to have you, because you've covered the Big 12 for a while, day in, day out. It's a game of margins. And, boy, when you start losing people up front, right? UCF got pushed around last year all over the field. They couldn't stop the run. I think they were like in the 150s against the run, rank-wise. You can't afford to lose guys like John Walker. Maybe you could offset that in, like, if you're in the American, but not in the Big 12. So that's why I dropped them down to an 8-4. I don't know if we read anything today into the defensive line. Again, they played an overmatched team, but you can't afford injuries. And I'm not convinced on this team's depth on the trenches at all. Offensive line, I don't think they're as deep as they were last year. And I certainly don't think they are in the defensive front. That's why I thought the Walker injury was big. But I will say this tonight, Jake, they do seem to have some playmakers, especially at the linebacking position, that they didn't have a year ago, which is I thought was encouragement from what I saw tonight.
It was really good. I mean, the defense only allowed 162 yards of total offense. They allowed 67 yards rushing. At one point, it was in the low 30s, but obviously fourth quarter is garbage time, so how serious do we really take that? They held New Hampshire to 2 of 15 on third down. Deshaun Pace and Antoine Jackson each had an interception. I mean, the defense played exactly how you're supposed to play in the first game of the year. I thought they got some good pressure. They had some good tackle for losses. How about the 6 or 7 yard loss in the first quarter on that wide receiver screen? They were able to read it easily with the cornerbacks. Defense played better than I thought. They only basically, I mean, you could consider it a shutout because the special teams gave up the field goal, but defense was phenomenal. They were.
They were, and I thought they played vanilla, which is what you expect when you're playing an inferior team. Exactly. I thought that was smart on that as well. All right, let's get into some of the comments and questions. You're all posting them up. I love it. My first post of the year, of course, a good friend of the show, Brian Peterson, chiming in. Is the offense already in trouble, or is this why you play an FCS team as a warm-up fixable passing issues? I think that's the question everybody's going to ask Jake tonight. And
yes.
It's going to be asking. That is, without question, the number one question on everybody's mind in the fan base tonight here in Knight Nation is that offense fixable passing-wise? And I don't know the answer. I want to say yes, right? That is the obvious answer to say because it's just game one. The biggest improvements come from game 1 to 2. Maybe there's some butterflies there, some nerves, whatever that you can improve. I can't be any worse, in my opinion, than that. But am I 100% saying that after what I saw? No. There were some bad habits there that I saw from KJ that concerned me. But I do think it's still fixable. And that's, yes, Brian, this is why, as much as I despise this is why a lot of college football programs schedule these FCS games to open the season. It's for reasons like this.
Exactly, because you're going to get it. It's a new year. It's new players, new coaches, new systems that the players are going to potentially learn. And first game, you're going to get the jibbers, you're going to get the nerves. And some of these freshmen or the guys who barely played last year, they're going to get their feet wet by playing. KJ played in the SEC before he got here, so he's now adjusting to the Big 12 and adjusting to the Orlando crowd. I mean, it was hot and humid, and there was one point I think when he fumbled that ball, his hands were sweaty because it was so hot there. So I mean, it happens. It's not like Arkansas weather, and Arkansas weather is pretty hot, but it's not as humid as it is there. But this is why you play it. This is exactly right. We expected nothing else, I guess, because at the end of the day, it's the first game where everyone's got nerves and players are slowly figuring it out. And it's UCF's second year in the Big 12. Last year, I think they were not used to the Big 12 play, but this year they can make some strides.
All right, next question. Joyner Perez, we won, but that seems to be the theme of the night. But do you have a but? Is that if you wrote the headline, first couple sentences for tonight watching UCF, is that your headline? We won, but, or is that a little extreme?
It could be a little extreme just because of I think that the main concern with this is the quarterback play. We're not really looking at the defensive perspective or the running game perspective or even the special teams, like I said, because the special teams scored 8 of the first 15 points. We're mainly focused on KJ Jefferson. That's really what we won, but our quarterback didn't play well. That's what it comes down to.
Sir Epic chiming in here. Sir Epic, thank you for coming in and tuning in right here to pass the word, spread the word, by the way, folks. We're going to be on after every UCF football game as we've done the last 5 seasons of regional here. Pretty much agreed. Christian Simmons, good buddy of it as well, said on Twitter, KJ was making the right reads early on, even with the mistakes. As long as we're able to run on teams, we'll have a chance at every game. Yeah, no, look, nobody's going to question the running game. No one's going to question the running game. This is a running team first.
It absolutely is. RJ had over 140 yards and 2 touchdowns. It's what you expect.
Yeah, in fact, I'm glad if you got the box score, have that in front of you because I'm going to ask you about what jumps out to you from the box score that it stands out to you. But so this team is going to run the football, and they're going to be really good at running the football. They were 4th, I believe, in the nation last year in running the football. They ran the ball about 59% of the time last year. That's going to be the same. KJ, look, no one is saying KJ doesn't have to be air it out. He doesn't have to be Shedeur Sanders, but he's going to have to make better throws because what's going to happen is as the season goes on, teams are going to jack the box up and make UCF beat you with the pass and make KJ beat you with the pass. And he's capable of that. We've seen him do that at Arkansas. That's why I wrote the big glaring column about how he is capable of taking UCF to be a contender for the Big 12. I do believe that. And again, he did make the right reads. He's a big kid, tough to get down. I didn't like the fact that he ran as much as he did, Jake.
I was just, you know what? You beat me to that because I was just about to ask you, do you think we're going to see him run the ball more? Do you think we're going to have some runs that are designed for him, or do you want him to stay in the pocket and throw?
No, he's going to run. I think in the bigger games when the matchup is a lot more even distributed, not like a one. My issue was, why are you running against New Hampshire? You don't need to run.
You don't need to. No,
that's my only issue there.
When we start conference play at TCU, then we would want to see some read options. We want to see some draws or some fakes. That would be the time to run it. Not week 1 or not week 2. Not New Hampshire, not Sam Houston.
100% agree. And I don't think they opened up the offense tonight on purpose. Again, you're playing Sam.
No, you don't want to show your whole. You don't want to show your whole playbook in the first game of the year. You can get creative, but you don't want to show everyone and then everybody picks up on it.
But I think that's why people are kind of disappointed with the passing game, because it's not like there was some simple throw, like the interception he threw just through the guy. It was just like, what happened there? So hopefully they're going to work on it. They have some tape on it. We'll see what happens right there. Let's see comments here. KJ was certainly telegraphing. Even I could see it from the stands. Yeah, I think we all did.
Yeah, that's easy. That I think everybody saw it, even on TV.
Correct. Let's see other comments here coming in. Currently, the Iowa State game is the one that makes me the most nervous. Not sure how well the other defenses that we're playing are going to be. That's why you're here, Jake. Break it down for us. Give me which teams would you be the most concerned if you're UCF on the schedule? Which ones you'd be the most confident there?
I wrote the piece about Florida. Me and Kyle debated that. If UCF is 3-1, 4-0 going into that game could shape out to be very critical. The Iowa State game, Ames is always a tough place to play. And for someone who graduated from Oklahoma State, my Cowboys have always had trouble playing there. They always got a good defense. It's a tough crowd there. And I know you were talking about this earlier, the Arizona game for the space game. Arizona had a really good year, and that's a big game that you were drawn to. And another one, too, West Virginia. People forget West Virginia had a really good year in the Big 12 last year, and that's another team that's a sleeper team in contention for the Big 12. And for the people who want to give a follow, along with the TCU game, I will also be at that game in Morgantown the Saturday before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, some people, Deal Brown did a heck of a job. Some people thought he was in the hot seat last year, and they ran all over UCF here in Orlando. You're right, and that's going to be at the end of November in Morgantown. So I agree. I have UCF. I mentioned I have UCF 8-4. I have them losing at West Virginia. I have them losing at Iowa State. I have them losing at Florida, and I think they're going to. And then I have them losing to Utah on Black Friday night. Utah, to me, looks like the team to beat in the Big 12 if they're healthy.
A lot of people are saying that. I see why. Utah's always been consistent. K-State will be another team in discussion. But if they're healthy. But going what I said about K-State, UCF doesn't have to play K-State this year. They don't have to play Oklahoma State. OU, they're gone. Texas gone. It's a good thing for UCF that 5 of those 6 teams that they lost to in the Big 12 are not on the schedule. The only ones at West Virginia, but West Virginia will be a tough crowd. And honestly, that game could shape out to be, maybe if one loses, they're not guaranteed a spot in the Big 12 championship. Like that game in Morgantown could shape out to be a quite interesting game.
Fries_flies. I love that. Chimes in. I think KJ will be good by TCU with training. I mean, technically they've been training now, but
they've been training.
But the point is, now you got this game and next week to get all the kinks out and all that by the time you get to go to Fort Worth, right? That's what it comes down to. That's
UCF fans. That's the game we determine how good KJ could be. First conference game, because that's the game you got to start figuring out.
Well, that's why he's here. This team to win games like that UCF couldn't do a year ago is to win games like that. He's won big games on the road before. If he plays well in that game and they win in 2 weeks, tonight's forgotten. If he struggles and they lose in 2 weeks, this will be an ongoing storyline all year.
Of course. And I forget, what's it, Jacuzzi Brown or what the backup quarterback's name is, right? It's Brown.
Brown.
Yeah, I couldn't remember his first name, sorry. But he only started one game last year at Miami, and it was the bowl game that they lost at Rutgers, and he didn't even do much in that game. I don't even think he threw for 200 yards.
We got Matt J chiming in. I really don't want to overreact to what is essentially a scrimmage game. Thank you. See, he obviously listens to me. I've called this game a scrimmage.
Right point.
But KJ looked like a third-string quarterback tonight. He has no ability to throw the ball. Look, third string's rough. I don't know about that, but I understand the sentiment. Not the most ideal passing performance. I thought he did look a little better in that third quarter from a running standpoint. What he does bring, he's a big kid is going to bulldoze over people eventually there. So we'll see how that goes. What do you think about the running backs? We saw RJ do his thing. Montgomery from Cincinnati do his thing.
You had
Penny Boone got some time.
Penny Boone, he got a score. Johnny Richer. I mean, this is, again, I really do believe it's the deepest UCF backfield in the history of the program. It's one of the best backfields in the country. And this is the identity of this team moving forward, is how those guys go. It was one of the questions I had going into this game, not just this game, but every game, is how will the distribution go? And tonight was an easy game. You gave everybody touches the way the game played out. It was interesting. Montgomery seemed, at least for tonight, to be the number 2 back. And they said on the telecast he kind of earned those reps in practice.
Even had the nice 49-yard touchdown pass. I mean, if you could get him on the ground and catching balls out of the backfield, I mean, that's a good combination right there. You could have a split backfield with Harvey and Montgomery and have 2 backs on the field. It's like, well, who's going to beat us now? I mean, that's a good threat that Coach Gus could have as we get into conference play.
Let's see other more comments. Comments here. We got to lock in by Colorado. I think it's before Colorado. You got to lock in
before TCU.
Fallen Hero, the base legend. We played like, I won't say it, but it starts with an S, and still covered. That's true. They did cover the spread going away easily. Trust me, I took UCF getting 41.5. So I will be more than thrilled about that. Maybe we will we start throwing more by Sam Houston? I don't know if we will. Jake.
No.
This is not a team that's going to air it out. This is a team that's going to run the ball, RPO it, play action, get the defense off balance, and then kind of go over the top, or at least underneath throw.
Until you can stop the run, that's exactly what we're going to do. And I think we'll see the same next week, because we want to see KJ at his best throwing the ball in conference play. So maybe that's the game we start seeing the playbook open and him throwing it out deep. Now, UCF will still run the football in conference play, but we got to make sure that KJ is the right guy for the quarterback, because if he doesn't start playing well in conference play, then the heated controversy will start at the quarterback position.
All right, you have the box score with you.
I don't actually. I only took a few notes from ESPN. My laptop is currently charging right now.
Oh, you had the same problem I did before we went on.
Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Who else stood out to you? What else stood out to you then? I'll just go more broad, because we've talked about the running game. Receiving game, I don't think you could read too much into it, because there wasn't many.
No.
Good. A lot of people feel the defense has improved. I think it has the ability. Certainly in the linebacking core, certainly looks much improved.
And let me make a quick point here. They look really disciplined. They only had 3 penalties in the game. They actually look like a really.
That's a great point. That's something Gus Malzahn has emphasized a lot. So that's a good perspective, especially for a first game of the season where it tends to get a little sloppy with the penalties. That's a good point to not have that many penalties. I think it's a good sign there. That's a good deal. Let's see, Sir Epic. To be honest, the average UCF student wants us to throw the ball and fails to realize how insane our running back room is this year. I don't think it's just the student section. I think the general college football, a lot of college football fans feel that way. I remember I had buddies of mine at Florida the year that Will Muschamp led them to the Sugar Bowl, and they were miserable. And I'm like, why are you miserable? It's like, because we don't throw the ball. And at Florida, they're used to airing it out with Spurrier and all that stuff. So I always think there's going to be a percentage of the fan base that the style does matter. And I know that bothers some people. Are like, oh, it should just be about wins and losses, that what matters. And that's true. But I understand the consensus that some people are like, can we just be entertaining and run and throw the ball a little bit more? So I understand that where they're coming from. But you're right. The strength of this team this year clearly is the running and the running backs.
454 yards. RJ Harvey picked up again where he left off with 142. It's what's going to happen. The running game is just what's going to be UCF's motto all year, just like Ollie Gordon in the Big 12 too at Oklahoma State. It's going to be run, run, run.
KJ didn't slide. He took a couple of unnecessary hits against him. I agree with that, actually. You're right. It was funny. Like the broadcast was complimenting him. Man, he's a tough kid. He meets on, and I'm like, yeah, no, you don't
want your quarterback hurt. You don't want your quarterback hurt.
We don't want that against New Hampshire to be trying to run over people. But he is a big kid, and so we'll see. That's a very, very good note there. Let's see. Yeah, I mean,
Do you think he looked rattled? Which is odd to say about a fifth-year quarterback playing at home. Do you think I don't know if he looked rattled. It's a great question.
Nervous. I don't know if rattle's the right word. Maybe just nervous.
Sure.
Because it's a new team. Arkansas fans are different than UCF fans, so maybe just nerves. I don't think rattled. Because he, like I said, he picked up his game in the second quarter, and then, they had a couple drives in the third quarter, so he started to slowly figure it out.
I'll be curious what they say in the postgame, too, when we get to Kyle.
Yeah, I wonder, too, actually. Yeah, I wonder, too.
We'll see what they say about that, because I'm sure he's going to get questions about KJ's and his performance there. Matt J., y'all crazy to say KJ will improve his accuracy. He is what he is at this point. They've had a whole offseason for Hinshaw to work his magic with KJ. Expectations lowered. Nobody said he was going to improve his accuracy. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is just make the throws that you're supposed to be making throws.
Exactly. That's all.
But because he's not. He is not a guy that's going to, he's not Patrick Mahomes. Nobody is saying that. We're just saying, there's some throws that you should be able to make, whether you're the best thrower passer or not.
Yeah.
That's all. Now, interesting. Does that make your expectations? Perhaps. Maybe it does to some. But what's clear here, we got it. By the way, first of all, a ton of chats, questions, which is what I wanted, in comments. A lot of people tuning in. Thank you for that. We'll be on after every UCF game, post-game wise, with various cast of thousands throughout the season. But a majority of this is KJ Jefferson questions, Jake. No surprise at all to say. Law Belvie. I have no faith. KJ was supposed to be the senior guy with all the experience. That's what all the dollars is for. And, of course, that's a reference to the name, image, and likeness. Jake, which that is the new landscape in college athletics now, because these athletes are good. And then, who knows what the revenue sharing that's coming down the road at athlete. Fans are going to expect a lot more from these kids now than they used to. And
guys, it's week one. It's week one, for God's sakes. We're not in conference play. Would UCF fans rather be 0-1 or 1-0 with a 54-point win? You would rather be 1-0. It's the first game of the year. Everyone's going to get the nerves.
Well, that's all you got to remember.
By TCU, KJ should have it figured out. And then if it doesn't work out by TCU, like if they get blown out or he has some bad turnovers, then you could go, okay, fine. It's week one, Eric, for God's sakes.
Welcome to our fan base, buddy. That's just what we do, bro. It's instant reaction, Jake. Instant reaction, buddy.
Listen, Eric, you know what? I'll throw a very similar case. When I was at OSU last year, they ran the 3-quarterback system, and Stillwater wanted to light the town on fire, but they really wanted to light the town on fire when they lost to South Alabama in the non-conference game, and they somehow were able to manage to make the Big 12 championship after that. So I guess OSU and UCF fans are very similar, I guess.
I think every college football fan, in fairness.
Yeah, yeah.
By the way, Colorado just hung on. They beat North Dakota State 31-26. North Dakota State threw a Hail Mary pass that was tackled at the 5-yard line. So,
how much was Colorado favored in that game? 10?
9.5, 10. Yeah.
9.5. Wow. Okay.
I took North Dakota State to cover, so I'm happy.
That's a smart bet. You think Nebraska covers next week against them in Lincoln?
Ooh, that's a good question. I'm not impressed with either team.
Yeah, I'm not either.
But that's a big game for both sides, for sure.
I saw Nebraska last year against Michigan. They looked totally unmatched, but Matt Rule has a couple of years to turn around there.
Yeah, that is wild. That was a good finish there. But hey, look, that's a big win for Dion. It sounds weird to say that. They could not afford it. Or maybe not. Maybe it's not a big win, but it's a avoid loss. You can't, with all the drama and all the soap opera that's going on over there, you cannot afford to lose that game.
No, not at all.
That they have. So you take the win. Again, North Dakota State is usually a pretty respectable FCS program.
Oh, they are.
So I wouldn't sneeze at that. And I tell you this, UCF will be challenged with Shedeur Sanders and company. But it is what it is.
Here's the good thing about that Colorado game. UCF has the bye week before they play Colorado. That could become very, very useful, so they could game plan more for Shredder.
I concur. Matt J, I'm concerned with every single conference game in the schedule plus the Gator game. Okay, there you go.
Okay, that's normal. That's normal.
Lonely Bumblebee, just run the triple option. I'm not kidding you. That did cross my mind at some point. I joked at one point in a group chat that I was in, Jake. I'm like, we kind of look like Georgia Southern, only with black colors instead of blue, with those type of jersey, and then we kind of look like, hey, maybe we should just run the triple option. Let's hope.
Yeah.
That's wild. Let's see. Lobai, I feel like the staff hit him, let him slide with no contact, and treated him with kid gloves on the hope he's a great. Yeah, that didn't work out that way.
No, it didn't. Not at all.
I am as mad on the staff as I am with KJ. I don't know what you wanted from the staff tonight. Again, you're not going to run anything special here in this game.
No, you're not.
So I hate to break it to you. They're not going to reinvent the wheel there. So I don't know what that means. I don't know unless you're saying that he didn't get him. I just again. You just
I don't know.
All right. Let's see what else. Let's see. Defense and special teams look great, but you have to be able to complete basic open throws to win.
Obviously.
Comments. Ted Roof fix the defense. More aggressive. What do you think, Jake? Well, I don't know. I wouldn't read into the aggression part tonight because again, I think they played it vanilla as they should. Basic defense.
Exactly.
Because you don't want to show a lot. You don't want to show a lot, and you shouldn't have to show a lot.
No, you shouldn't.
New Hampshire.
You shouldn't. Not against New Hampshire.
I do think they got better athletes, especially in the linebacking core. But I'm not ready to declare that they're much. And should they be? I mean, they'll probably be a little better than last year, but I'm not ready to declare that it's fixed or anything like that until I'm not even. Until they play a legitimate FBS program like TCU, for example, in a couple of weeks. I'm not one that's going to make big conclusions out of this game or even next week. Just win your games these two games, go 2-0,
exactly,
dominate, and get out of there healthy, and hopefully execute the basic stuff. That's really what we want, and I think that's why people are frustrated. I think with KJ's performance tonight, it's just you didn't execute the basic stuff on the passing game. That's why I think people are maybe a little more.
Yeah, that's all. That's all what it comes down to.
Yeah. Let's see. I do love the defense and all the offense except the QB. So we'll see. Again, the quarterback room is going to be fascinating to see. Where do you have? We should be having Kyle and Bryson will be joining us here in a few minutes. Can't imagine they talk forever in a post game, but hey, that's why I'm not there because I wouldn't want to be there that long. Oh, there we go. See there, he's trying to set up. What is your outlook of the Big 12, Jake?
What do you mean by outlook?
Who's your pick to win it? Who are the teams you think are in the mix to win the Big 12? How many teams? There's some people that think 7 to 8 teams can win the Big 12 title. Some people think it's more Utah. Arizona is fascinating because I think a lot of people would have picked Arizona if Jed Fish would have stayed there, but he didn't. Not many people can name the Arizona head coach. Gundy and Oklahoma State, you just don't know what to expect from them. With Ollie Gordon, they look great at times. Like you said last year, they got destroyed by South Alabama, lost to UCF, but yet got to the Big 12 title game. I think that's
outlook. I mean, it's mostly probably going to be Utah by I'd say 65% just off the top of the head. But Oklahoma State will be there. K-State will be there. KU people are hyping up because KU's pre-ranked for the first time. And
Jaden Daniels, Daniels healthy tonight. Yeah, looked pretty good.
Yeah, Daniels. And then, like I said last year, I think a sneaky team could be West Virginia. Virginia had a really good year. They finished 9-3. It was 9-3 or 8-4, but they won their bowl game by 20. They beat North Carolina pretty good.
Ran all over UCF, so that's for sure. All right, Jake. Let's ask some questions to the guys that were there in person to call the game. Kyle Nash, who has shrunk apparently. And Bryson Turner, who's apparently grown in size. I don't know what's going on, but they're there on the field to catch the postgame. Gentlemen, how you doing?
What's going on, Eric Lopez? Listen, I am here to provide any therapy, and if any group chats have been any indicator, you need a lot of it, sir.
Kyle, this is for you. I didn't mean to cut you off, Eric. Kyle, how much pressure did you really feel was on KJ? Was there points at the time where the fan base was just growing so obnoxious in the stands or just moaning? Like, how much frustration do you think was there?
This is why I like doing business with Jake, Eric. This dude just comes right out of the gate. Yeah, pleasantries my rare. Get to it, fat man. No, listen, here's what I feel like. KJ didn't really have a lot of pressure on him on the field. The moans were there, but I really feel like this is a situation where it's about adjustment. To me, the kind of misses he made, the kind of misses he had were ones that looked like he just wasn't, I don't want to say wasn't ready, but he was in his head. It felt like he had a lot of butterflies. He felt like that he just was still coming off the shelf, so to speak.
What did Gus say about KJ's performance?
Yeah, I mean, he acknowledged the slow start, and he acknowledged, too, that the offense as a whole turned around later in the game. And, I think the way he put it was this was his first time live fire in a year. And I think that was part of the factor. But some of the unknowns, too, that came up was this first time doing in-helmet communication with the quarterbacks. That's something that's completely new all over the nation, right? And those kind of factors there certainly bore out. He mentioned sloppy play for the team in general, but did understand KJ's struggles.
He did, I want to say, take some fault on himself for that. I believe he did mention that, so that's also something that kind of Gus brought up in that situation as well.
Bryson, do you think that if he was to play like he did again next week against Sam Houston and then in conference play at TCU, the controversy to sit in could start?
I would say well, here's the good thing is that even if KJ has a bad game, I mean, look at this running back room. I mean, the running back room absolutely took over this entire game. So if KJ is having some struggles, then guess what? There's a solution for that. Run the dang ball. Just keep doing it. If KJ needs to limit the number of throws that he needs to do, that's fine because he has the running back room to really supplement that type of stuff. He can dump it off to a running back, and then they could just take it like 49 yards to the end zone or something like that. That being said, as far as his play in general, I mean, if he still is playing this way in the next couple of games, then yeah, that might be some cause for concern. But one thing I noticed when he talked to us in the post game is that he seems like a guy that is in the process of shaking this kind of a performance off. And if I think there's anything that KJ can do is shake off a shaky performance like this one. And he did get better later on.
To directly answer your question, Jake, and no disrespect to my partner in crime here, but going to the running game isn't going to solve the elephant in the room. And there were times when New Hampshire sold out and stopped the run. The third down conversion rate wasn't particularly impressive for the offense from where I sit. But I mean, 4 of 11 is but it isn't what you should be doing against an FCS school, right? So I think that's a factor too. I don't know that you can't go into a Big 12 game and play a stouter defense. Not that Big 12 is known for stouter defense, but like, let's say you're facing Utah on Black Friday. You're going into the SEC and say what you will about the Gators who are in a weaker state. We had that conversation in the past on a different episode of Night Shift, Jake. Bing! But with all that being said, I think there's an element of that in the room. The thing is, I don't think Ja'Cory Brown is any sort of Dylan Gabriel to have shown enough to be that guy.
I wasn't impressed with him either.
Well, I know. We'll get you plenty of time to panic, Eric. I know you're going to. So, but I'm not ready to sell out quite yet to that KJ Jefferson is Brandon Wimbush. I'm not there yet either.
Kyle, do you think 14 pass attempts was enough for KJ in the first game?
No, but I think more is going to come. I think this is more about him. He found a few passes he connected on. He had the big one to Kobe Hudson to set up the touchdown in a 2-minute drill, by the way. The fact that he came out with that ice-cold vein throw for a guy that's supposed to be a bruiser and a runner like that, like a quarterback that he is, shows me that there's something there. That's the one time he just looked confident and knew what he had to do. The throw to Miles Montgomery, listen, let's be honest. I know it was a touchdown, but that was more about him being open in space and delivering a slow lob ball. Granted, he made sure it was complete. That's how wide open Miles Montgomery is. I'll give him that much credit, but I didn't feel confident in that delivery. I think it's just as simple as him going to practice, seeing how easy Ja'Cory could just step through a throw and remembering that he can do that. I really think this is all mental, and Sam Houston will determine whether I continue that theory or not.
Bryson,
Plus,
do you
it was a
think
blowout game, so there wouldn't be really a lot of opportunities to throw as much, because once you start getting into like really blowout territory, you really don't want to throw the ball as much. So that could also contribute to that.
Bryson, you think Coach Gus will let KJ throw more next week against Sam Houston?
I mean, if it's still a close game, I think. And that would be a completely different issue if it's a close game. If it's a close game after that, do I think that he might throw more early on than he threw early on today? I think it just depends on, like Kyle said, the kind of how he adjusts mentally. If he's still not really there yet, then I think they might just lean on running the ball some more. But if he is better, then let him throw and get that confidence back. And he's going to have to do that in order to get the confidence back, like you said, with Jakuri doing as well as he did as far as just stepping into his throw. I think if we see KJ doing his stuff like that with his throwing motion, then I think arguably that's really that would be kind of fix the issues that we saw from him tonight.
I sit in a different place in one particular way, though, guys. When has Gus Malzahn's offenses done better? When the quarterback is throwing than less than 20 or 25 times in a game. Anyway, 14 is about what you're going to expect, right? This is what we're looking at. Unless that is guaranteed to throw. I think 20 passes is going to be the test.
Yeah, this team ain't going to look. I agree, Kyle. If this team's throwing the ball more than 25, 30 times, they're in trouble. They're in trouble. Right. I don't care who you are. That's not who they are. That's not who KJ was at Arkansas. Nobody said he's not Shedeur Sanders at all. So if you're expecting that, you're mistaken. I think, though, why the majority tonight are upset, and they are, trust me. This is the most upset I've never seen a negative upset group of a 57-3 win, but we are. And that's why we are.
You've been in this fan base long enough to have seen that, Eric Lopez. Don't hand me that.
College football fans are known for their level-headedness, Eric. Come on now.
But here's the thing. With the NIL and everything, the expectations go up higher, and this was a lot of hoopla. And look, rightfully so. I wrote on the column on Black and Gold Banneret about he can make him a Big 12 contender, and I still believe that. But he definitely lost support from the fan base tonight, and he's going to have to win him over in 2 weeks. 2 weeks.
That's a hell of a note, isn't it? In 75% of a single game, all the people that threw this money at him are already out. I mean, if you want to, sure, that's your thing. But I'll add this too, Eric. The reason why what you make is such a good point is how much have we here, in particular, covering this college, have seen that element take place here on the field. This is unprecedented territory for us to analyze. So, and moreover, for a guy like KJ, who was a humble dude, come on, the guy was like, I'm surprised Madden had me this high. Everyone else complains about their Madden rating if they play football, period. Okay. This is a humble dude. And I think in the ways, like if you look at stories you've heard perhaps of a Steve McNair in the past, for those that are in our age bracket there, Eric, this is a guy who cares about producing for the fans. That's the read I make. And the fact that the NIL money is attached to it like that, it's another element of pressure I think that could be in why he came out.
The reality is college quarterbacks are going to get treated like NFL quarterbacks do. There's expectations. Sure. You know this as well as anybody, Kyle, that covered it. Quarterbacks will get scrutinized, and that's going to be no different here.
I mean, listen, I covered the Jacksonville Jaguars for Fans First Sports Network. Bing! How many times do you think I've talked about Trevor Lawrence's contract there and on the Duval diet?
Sure.
Bing! So, yeah, it's a great comparison.
But let's not forget that, like, KJ Jefferson isn't the only player that NIL money is going
That's
for.
What he's saying, yeah.
I mean, like, I would honestly argue that every UCF night that isn't a quarterback had a good game tonight. I would agree.
I mean, you're playing an FCS team. I would hope you do.
You should.
Well, you look at the transfers.
This is what a no-win scenario looks like. You do your job, and it's like, man.
Exactly, but I say this because, people are saying the sky is falling because two players in one position group had a bad
expectations
game.
are high. I mean, expectations are high. Welcome to being a football fanatic. The football, fan is short for fanatical. Welcome to the landscape.
Well, but you look at the second half. KJ got better in the second half.
He did. He got it going.
Saying that it's a bad game.
Yeah, the game was already over.
I think it's still arguably overall a bad game, but he got better in the second half.
All right, that's enough, KJ. We got plenty of time to talk quarterbacks. It feels like this is going to be another year where we're going to talk a lot about the quarterbacks. I do want to get into a couple other things before, because I actually do want you guys' season predictions, because we didn't do that on the podcast because we got suckered into a.
You would want to wait until after preseason to actually do that.
Well, this was a preseason game.
That's my point.
So that's correct. So
then
I do want to.
On the NknightShift podcast, we could do it then.
No, I don't trust the host to actually keep us on track. We'll probably get into another stupid realignment segment. What I want to ask you about the line of scrimmage, Kyle, in particular. What did you think of the offensive line in particular and the defensive line? I don't think we're going to learn a ton from the defensive side against an inferior New Hampshire team, but I know you had your eyes on the offensive line. I thought at times pass protecting they had some issues. I don't know if that was a KJ thing or an O-line thing. It got better in the second. But what did you think overall from the line and just overall elsewhere other than the quarterback?
Overall, they had pass protection issues. What, 1 sack, and now suddenly – listen, guys, first of all, here's the thing. You got to give New Hampshire credit at some point daring KJ to throw and throwing everything they could at the box and still losing. To that point, what else can you say except, hey, the O-line did what they did? And I know you were up in arms on Monday. Suddenly we're forgetting the critical nature of what the defensive tackles could do. It's not so much that they were pushing them 5 yards back. You expect that. What I love to see defensively in the trenches here at Lopez is the DBs getting involved in a very special way. Buddy, how many times did I shout for Addison Williams to attack with the DBs?
No, I agree. 100%. You wrote about it all year.
2 tackles for loss, buddy. I mean, that's the kind of stuff you want to see. Ethan Barr hitting dudes. Everybody was everywhere, and it's what you wanted to see from this group.
No, I 100% agree with that. And I remember talking to Brandon Adams.
We got to remind him.
Well, Brandon Adams with Ted Roof, they're going to be more aggressive. The secondary will be more involved. I agree with that. I thought the special teams was good. Got a block kick for a safety. Hooray.
Sure.
Townsend looks great as a returner. My question to you about that is, I like Townsend as the returner. My only concern is, are you deep enough at wideout where, you're running the risk of him getting some extra licks, considering right now he's probably the number 2. You got Trent Whittemore, number 3. Are you comfortable there with him adding that extra burden as well as the full-time number 2 receiver?
Well, the reason why I'm okay with it is you could kind of replace having a second receiver in the aggregate with a Miles Montgomery leaking out. Goodness gracious, we saw that work nicely. The running backs are good in support. Randy Pittman is going to be a factor too, leaking out when people don't expect him to do something. So they may have to change the play calls a little bit. I don't know that Trent Whittemore is the answer. I really am surprised that we haven't seen more Chauncey Magwood, more Jacoby Jones in here at this point. That was a little weird to me. But I think that may be coming in Sam Houston. I don't know exactly what was happening. Maybe because they saw KJ struggle, they went to the run more to try to help him feel comfortable again. One would hope you'll see more of them in Sam Houston State next week on Saturday.
Plus, let's not forget that Deshaun Jackson was a thing. I feel like that if Xavier Townsend reminds me of anybody, he kind of reminds me a bit of Deshaun Jackson in the way that he is a regular wideout while also being a gifted return guy that's very shifty type. I think that I feel like that's the kind of thing we're going to see out of him this season. And if you're worried about him getting licks in, I mean, you could always just have him on the field for the threat of a reverse, which the Gus's want to do, and then just keep him there as sort of a distraction and keep him on their toes for that sort of situation.
Questions from Brian here, good friend. Thoughts on the Shamu uniforms?
Oh, it's the Spider-Man symbiote uniforms, first of all. Let's be clear about that. And second, absolutely awesome. Listen, I don't care about people out there that want gold in the uniform, okay? It was great. The font helmet gets me every time. I like night mode better. But hey, it sets the bar high enough to when they come out with something that's not North Carolina colors, they could still improve.
The Drip U unis do a really good job. I've said this before, and we've talked about uniforms on the podcast and on this show, that I really love contrasting colors that make them both pop. And the dark black and it was like the darkest of blacks and the whitest of whites on this uniform tonight, and it just popped perfectly from the press box. I didn't have trouble seeing any of the numbers, and if I don't have that issue, then it's a good uniform in my book.
All right, Matt J chiming in. Matt J, we're absolutely an insane fan base, but
You need to have your most important player be able to fulfill the most basic requirements of his job, open throws. That's been the consensus tonight, gentlemen. That's been the consensus.
So that's what it's been all about is KJ. Mainly, Eric, about what, 80% of the comments in the chat have been about KJ?
Yeah.
I said it's week one, for God's sake.
I'll be honest with you. You know what's wild? I don't think Plumlee got this many questions.
No,
which is
I don't think
crazy.
he did.
That's crazy, Kyle.
Yes, the reason why he got that many questions is because there was an actual quarterback battle in that case, and people were standing for Kane when they saw what they didn't like. In this case, I think these are all rotten tomatoes in the direction of KJ. That's the difference.
Yeah, I feel like you talk about questions to JRP. It's like JRP. That was a questioning tone. That's more of like, hey, I feel like maybe this other quarterback would have been better. Here is a much more vitriol. Plus, JRP was coming over from Ole Miss after being a wide receiver. KJ's been a quarterback this entire time, so I feel like that there's a little more of an expectation for KJ in this situation than it was for JRP, and so it gives the fan base maybe an internal permission to be more angry because it's like getting ripped off at the mechanics or something like that.
And trust me, and again, I think the expectations for college athletes is changing as the landscape's changing with all that's going on. I'm telling you, I can sense it. Not just, and this is not just a UCF thing. Let's make this clear. This is across
nationwide.
Like Florida State, the fan base. DJ got it himself. Like it's there. And again, with the transfer, it's like the free agents in pro sports. There's expectations with transfers. More so than even maybe the kid that's coming up. I could sense the similarities there. We'll see. I do. Wow, we got so many comments. Props to everybody. We got 32. The student section a few times was chanting, throw the ball. So you'll like you said earlier, fans like passes. Did you sense that? Was the fans disgruntled with the lack of passing there? I don't know. I mean, I said this earlier, guys, when you were in the postgame. I had a Gator buddy. I remember the year Will Muschamp led the Gators to the Sugar Bowl. He was miserable. And I'm like, why are you miserable? It's like, we don't throw the ball ever. It's boring. It's terrible. Now, it turns out long-term, Muschamp wasn't the answer. But there is a percentage of fan base that expect to win with a certain style that you're never going to please everybody, I guess. But your reaction to that?
I mean, are we going back to the Mike Kruzek days, right? Elo, wasn't that the complaint back then? Is that what we're talking about? There's a history drop for you, sir. No, listen, you're asking the wrong guy the question. I'd love seeing the run game. I'm an offensive lineman, though. That's where I live. I mean, ask Bryson what he thinks. But if you want me to criticize this running back core that continues the tradition of great running backs here at UCF in an extra way by taking Cincinnati players and making them great in the run game with Miles Montgomery and on defense, I'm sorry, you're asking the wrong guy. I loved seeing Miles Montgomery work in black and gold tonight, or black and white, I guess, in this case. But
I mean, for people asking that question, I mean, like, especially if you're on the older side, did you watch the 1990 team? I mean, look.
No, obviously not. The answer is no. Obviously, no. If they're in the student section, clearly they didn't watch 1990. In fairness,
but look, in my opinion, is that you do what works for you, and what's been working with UCF is running the ball. And I can guarantee you right now, if the situations were reversed, the student section would then be chanting "run the ball, run the ball." So I just think this is about just the fickleness of fan bases to do something that they want. What's not making the team do better, like to do better.
Understand what just happened, gentlemen. I thought I was cool dropping a 30-year-old reference, and here comes Bryson adding on 8 more years. I mean, what are we doing here? Can you even?
You're clearly, Kyle. You're the young one of the two of you. I'm convinced you're the two young one. More interesting comment here. I want you guys to react to this. Love how much Johnny was involved in the offense. He was unique skill set among running backs. Your thoughts overall on how the running backs were used. Montgomery seems to be, at least tonight, was the backup. It seemed like they talked about on the broadcast that he kind of earned that through the fall ball practice and spring like that. But your thoughts on how all the backs were used?
I mean, listen. According to Coach, Miles Montgomery was the MVP of fall camp, and they all have their different tool sets that were used well. Who could complain about it at this point?
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. I honestly thought that Richardson wasn't as involved early on, but once he did start to get involved, I was thinking, oh man, this running back room is deep. I think I broke it down a little bit in the running back preview that I put up, but each of them contributes something in a way that really reminds me a bit of that 2017-2018 running back room that was just a murderer's row of running backs. It's one of the reasons why I'm kind of so high on this UCF team because of how deep they got their running back room, because I feel like this running back room hasn't been as deep as it was in 2017 and 2018 until this season.
Well, how high are you on UCF? That's a good segue, Bryson. Give me your what. First of all, did anything tonight change your expectations about this team this season, either on a positive, on a negative, or is it still the same after tonight, but as you had going into the game, both of you?
I think the bowl eligibility is the minimum. I don't think that's changed that much. We talked about.
And we lost him.
Something happened.
That's called the bounce house technology. Dropping.
It is? Oh, boy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's worse at the basketball arena there, Jake. I think we're getting them back here.
Really? It's worse?
Yeah. Basketball's way worse. Yeah, good luck getting internet connections, my friend.
I think Boone Pickens Stadium, if you were like not in the press box, the connection was awful at OSU. Same thing with the basketball arena, honestly. There's like one thing I've noticed is like there's never any service at any like stadium. AT&T Stadium in Arlington is the worst when it comes to service.
Really? I would not have guessed that.
Oh, it's awful. It's awful. I had no service at the games ever.
All right, Kyle, give me a thumbs up when you're ready. I think he's resetting up somewhere else where maybe a better connection here. As we've got about a few more minutes, we're going to hit up on this a little bit. How are you enjoying this debut show here, Judge Jake?
I didn't expect it to go for an hour. I thought this would be like a 30, 40-minute thing, but I guess not the case.
Welcome. No, I thought so too, but people have a lot of thoughts, and that's why we enjoyed that very much there. We'll see. What did you think of the running backs, Jake? We mentioned all four. Did you like how they work?
Yeah, I worked it well. Obviously, Harvey, you don't want to burn Harvey out the first game of the year by no means, but the way they were able to get the other backs in there, particularly Montgomery, he had the nice 49-yard touchdown. They worked it well. I mean, first game of the year, and plus when you got a big lead like that, you want the backups playing as much as they can to get as much action as they can, and then you can figure out who's your clear number 2 guy. And right now it appears Montgomery might be the guy. I mean, like I told you earlier, he could be split backfield. They could have 2 running backs on the field at the same time. They could particularly do that.
Definitely seems like a multi-back team. We'll see what happens with that. So
that honestly, it really seems to be the new trend in football because running backs can't last anymore like they used to. So most teams will carry 3 running backs.
You're right, because they're not going to run a guy. You guys though, your Oklahoma State was kind of the exception to the rule because you guys ran Ollie Gordon all the time a year ago.
And you know what, they're going to do it again this year because Oklahoma State doesn't have a second running back.
Is that true?
They really got no other second running back. Jay Nixon transferred. I don't even know where he's at. I think he transferred. I don't even know who the backup running back is.
Wow, that's not good, my friend. That's not a good omen there for you.
No, it's not. But the offense for Oklahoma State, real quick, it's just going to be Ollie Gordon. That's all it's going to be.
What else is new, right? All right, let's take you here, courtesy of Kyle, and then we'll get Kyle back on here. Let's hear what Gus had to say on the opening statement.
Convincing win against a lesser opponent. Looking at the game, I just told the players, the thing that stood out to me is only 3 penalties. We had a face mask. I think we had a late hit late in the game with one of our backups, and we had a delay a game on a field goal. We ended up making it. But the 3 penalties, we've been really focused on not beating ourselves. Now, defensively, we played a big-time game. I think Pace's interception, that was the one that really turned the game into being able to breathe a little bit and play. With that, Tennyson had the blocked punt right there. He was one of the better special teams players in college football last year. It showed. Xavier Townsend was big time in the return game. I thought had really good field position. Offensively, the first quarter really struggled. We had a little trouble. We had some sacks. I called a couple bad plays, put a quarterback in a bind a few times, and then we were able to kind of get in a rhythm. Maybe we run the football, play fast. Second half, we kind of kind of got going. And so real excited. I think we rushed for 454 yards. And I think everybody sees we got real running backs. When you put in the backups and your guys that would start for most teams in America, the running backs right there. So there's a lot to build on. I've told our guys there are some mistakes, but the great thing is they're all correctable. And I think anytime you got 50 new players, that's to be expected at certain points. But I'm excited for our guys. We're 1-0. We got a little extra time before game 2. Question.
All right. That was Gus Malzahn in the post game. So we'll see there. Let's bring back Kyle Nash now in there. Kyle, who courtesy of his video there. You've moved now. You've moved to a different spot now, haven't you, Kyle?
Yeah, we might be losing light there on the field, so I want to make sure I can wrap up without having to do it in the dark. So,
all right, Jake and Kyle, give me your reaction. Jake, started with you, and then Kyle, your reaction to Gus's statements there.
I think he was spot on. Obviously, new players. He said 15. Eric, we talked about this before Kyle came on. I said they were a real disciplined team, and he mentioned I think we lost him. But Kyle, one thing me and Eric were talking about, or that I brought this up, is I said UCF has been a real disciplined team, and they only had 3 penalties, and that was another thing that he acknowledged. And it is a good thing that they got some extra time on their hands for Sam Houston. Learn from it. Get a couple of days off and then come right back to practice. I think he was fair on with what he said. New players, disciplined. Special teams were good. Defense was good. The interception by Pace changed the game.
Yeah, no, Pace, first of all, having 2 guys come in from Cincinnati as transfers, having a night full of transfer performance, by the way, was a huge part of it. This is what you hope when you have a turnover of, 40 or 50 guys,
exactly,
on what day of the week it is, so that's obviously a great thing there too. The mental errors being reduced, like you mentioned, 3 penalties, 0 penalties on offense, right? It was a special teams penalty and 2 defensive penalties. You got to like that part of it, okay? And that's one advantage to where you're in a place where you're running the ball. It's simpler offense. It's fewer mistakes. It's less shots in the foot, so to speak. So there's that positive element there too. Obviously, if we're talking about mental errors, though, the interception, obviously, KJ would want that back. Ja'Cory Brown with the fumble on what was an excellent decision to run the football. You just got to secure it. But that's a young player in his first game, and these guys are at the end of the game trying to make a name for themselves, getting up higher on their depth chart too. So they're going to be poking at the ball a little extra, I would imagine, in a situation like this. So the thing that Gus pointed out there, of course, obviously he mentions the slow start and all of those, but the increase in improvement from week 1 to week 2 is the biggest jump that Gus expects of his team.
Easily.
This is something he said tonight, but this is something he said in every year as UCF's head coach. So that's why I think Sam Houston's really, to me, going to be the game to watch. He's going to be looking for that big leap.
Agreed.
All right. Let's end it on this, Kyle. And that was the question I was asking as you guys got cut off is, did you see anything tonight that changed your expectations for this team this year, either positive or negative, or is it still the same as it was going into this game?
Yeah, I saw a lot of positive. I'm impressed with the defense, honestly, thudding and hitting in a way that they hadn't previously. And the aggressiveness is not just a false advertisement. Ted Roop coming in the building. These guys are attacking and doing a lot of things. And maybe you don't see as many, stats for Lee Hunter and Ricky Barber in the defensive tackles as normal, but I think that's more because they're doing their job that you're supposed to do as a D tackle, soaking up blocks so the guys around you can do the work, and that's what we saw tonight. Very impressed with that. Thoroughly enjoyed Xavier Townsend, like special teams. Obviously, the caveat being you're supposed to do that sort of thing against these teams, which is weird to say you're supposed to beat a team by 54, but here we are. As for KJ, listen, if he didn't hit that throw to Kobe Hudson in the 2-minute drill, if he didn't turn around and find some sort of sanity to get back up to 50% completion, again, not a great game, but he went from completely awful to, making it a game where you could see a stat line where Gus Malzahn wins a power game, a Big 12 game with a stat line like that, where the danger of a downfield bomb and a lottery ticket to Kobe Hudson, to Xavier Townsend, to Randy Pittman could be what busts things open, keeps the defense honest enough to let the running game continue to churn. But until I need more before I could really get more negative, because obviously it's all through the quarterback first.
And then Lonely Bumblebee says, I love seeing Townsend whiff the ball. Yeah, I think that's fair. I think he's exciting to watch getting touches. I think that's a key part of this offense as well. It's a good point, Kyle. All right, I'm not going to ask you about for a win-loss record or anything. You know why? I know you got to write a recap, night class. I have a feeling you might mention what your expectation was for this team this year in there, right? What can we expect?
Well, I mean, certainly an evaluation of what we saw, with always the caveat of this. The only thing that stops the UCF Knights' first, well, as Eric likes to say, preseason game, is the difference between the performance where everybody performing isn't necessarily a celebrity, is that on in a college preseason game, as Eric puts it, the points do matter. Whose line is it anyway? They don't. That's the only difference, really. So, I mean, for my money, you know, everything with that caveat, I can only analyze what I've seen. I mentioned that in night class, first edition of 2024 on blackandgoldbanneret.com. Bing! But beyond that, what grades we saw, what the good was, what the concerns were, and what we hope to see, what improvement needs to happen going into, or coming out of, I should say, Sam Houston.
Kyle Nash reporting from the bounce house, as well as Bryson Turner disappeared, but that's okay.
Hey, Bryson Turner's making sure you have the videos and the interviews we have on Black and Gold Banneret YouTube channel. Bing! So, hey,
you can find,
give the man credit. We're doing some teamwork here tonight. But, gentlemen, an honor, joy, and privilege to jump in, and looking forward to the next one already. Until next time, class dismissed.
All right, that was Kyle Nash reporting from the bounce house. Last thoughts, Jake, before we call it a show.
Well, gotta learn from the negatives. That's really what you have to do. KJ will have pressure on himself, but you got to learn from the negatives. You can't be negative all the time. If you keep getting negative, then negative things will happen. Look, it's better to be 1-0 than 0-1.
That is what a very anticlimactic finish there. That was good. We'll see what happens. Knights win 57-3. They'll take on Sam Houston next Saturday night. So you got a couple extra days to get ready for that UCF home game. And then, of course, Jake, you will join us from Fort Worth, Texas. 2 weeks.
Yes.
TCU,
yes. Looking forward to it.
You're going to be from somewhere on the – I hope you took notes how Kyle had to set up on the field and then readjust as, lost connection.
Yeah, my first goal obviously is to go to the post-game pressers or get Gus and then maybe a play or two and then come back on the field. I don't know if some of the quotes would be worthy enough to put in there. Obviously, I want them to, but we'll have to see how it goes. I will be the hour behind when I get to Fort Worth because it's an hour time difference from East to Central time. So I'll have to let you guys know about that and see what goes on with the times and all that.
He will be out there in Fort Worth for that. Thanks for joining me, though, and talking, so I didn't have to talk to myself and the audience there. So look at that. Joyner Perez, see you in Fort Worth. He's going to go to the game, it looks like. There, Matt J. Pace looked as advertised. I agree. Pace made a big play there.
Hey, if you're going down to Fort Worth, make sure you go to Terry Black's Barbecue in downtown Dallas. Get some phenomenal beef ribs, some brisket, pork ribs, jalapeno cheese sausage. I love Dallas, Texas. I've been to Dallas too many times.
You heard it there, folks. If you're going out there to the road TCU game, that's where you need to go. Take it from the man who's done it many a times. Jake, this was fun. Thanks for doing this. I know we'll do this again at some point, but hope you had fun and look forward to your coverage, helping us out, contributing to the UCF coverage this year.
Yep. Have a good night, Eric.
All right, for Jake, for Bryson, for Kyle, I'm Eric. Hope you've enjoyed this edition of Night Shift. Keep it on blackandgoldbanneret.com for the recap. Tonight's game is Kyle Nash. We'll have it up there for you. Yes, I am hungry now that he brought up the food options there. Keep it on the YouTube channel for all the post-game coverages, press conferences, and much more. We'll have Night Shift, the regular podcast, next week. I'm sure to reaction from this game and look ahead to Sam Houston as well as the other UCF sports going on. And much more. And a reminder, we'll be on after every game. You will have a Night Shift post-game show after every UCF football game, home and away. Thanks to all of you for all the questions and comments and tuning in to this edition of Night Shift. Good night and charge on.